You finally buy a home in Spain, sign the papers, celebrate with a bottle of wine, and mentally close the chapter on big housing expenses, because in your mind, the purchase price was the hard part. Then the letters start arriving, quietly, one by one, each one small enough to ignore on its own, but together forming a yearly cost that surprises almost every homeowner who did not grow up in the Spanish system. My name is Hector, and I help people understand what owning property in Spain really costs after the keys are already in your hand. The problem is not that Spain is uniquely expensive, but that the ongoing taxes and municipal charges are fragmented, poorly explained, and rarely discussed during the buying process. Real estate agents focus on closing the deal, lawyers focus on the transaction, and nobody sits you down to explain what you will keep paying every single year and what will appear again when you eventually sell. Stay until the end, because once you see how IBI, plusvalía, and local fees stack together, you will understand why the purchase price is only the beginning of the financial story. The most important recurring cost of owning a home in Spain is the annual property tax known as IBI, which stands for Impuesto sobre Bienes Inmuebles. This is a municipal tax, meaning it is charged by your local town hall, not the National Tax Office, and that is why the amount varies so widely from one city to another. IBI is calculated based on the cadastral value of your property, not the market value you paid, which often confuses newcomers. The cadastral value is an administrative number assigned by the municipality, and it is usually lower than market value, sometimes dramatically so. The town hall then applies a percentage rate to that value, which results in your yearly IBI bill. In practical terms, this means two identical apartments with the same market price can have very different IBI bills depending on when they were registered, how the cadastral values were updated, and which municipality they are in. For an average apartment, IBI might be a few €100 per year, but in some areas it can climb much higher, especially for larger properties or homes in premium locations. IBI is unavoidable. It arrives every year, and it must be paid whether you live in the property, rent it out, or leave it empty. Miss the payment, and surcharges and interest apply automatically, which is why most people set it to auto-debit and forget about it until the next year. Then there is the cost most buyers never think about until it is too late, because it does not appear yearly, but hits you when you sell, and that is the municipal capital gains tax, commonly called plusvalía. Despite the name, this tax is not based on how much money you actually made on the sale, which is where the confusion and frustration begin. Plusvalía is calculated on the assumed increase in the value of the land over the time you owned the property, using a formula set by the municipality. Even if you sell at a loss or barely break even, the tax can still apply, because it is not measuring your real profit, but a theoretical increase based on official coefficients. Recent legal changes have softened the worst cases, allowing taxpayers to choose alternative calculation methods or challenge unfair results, but the tax still exists and can still be significant. The longer you own the property, the higher the potential plusvalía, which means this is a deferred cost that grows quietly in the background while you are focused on other things. For many sellers, plusvalía feels particularly painful because it arrives at the same time as other selling costs, such as agent fees and potential income tax on capital gains, making the moment of exit far more expensive than expected. On top of these two major taxes come the smaller but persistent local charges that nobody puts in the brochure. Garbage collection fees are a common example, and while they may sound trivial, they are mandatory and billed either annually or semi-annually, depending on the municipality. These fees are charged simply for having the property available to generate waste, not based on how much trash you actually produce. Some municipalities include garbage fees within the IBI bill, while others send a separate invoice, which adds to the confusion for new owners who suddenly receive unexpected demands for payment. The amounts are usually modest, but like everything else, they add up over time. Depending on where your property is located, there may also be other local charges, such as street maintenance fees or special assessments for improvements, which are decided at the municipal level and applied to property owners in specific areas. These are not universal, but when they appear, they are not optional. The key mistake people make is budgeting only for the mortgage and utilities, assuming that taxes are a one-time purchase issue. In Spain, ownership is a relationship with the municipality, and that relationship comes with recurring obligations that continue whether your income goes up, down, or disappears entirely. If you rent the property out, some of these costs can be offset by rental income, but they do not disappear, and if the property sits empty, they still arrive like clockwork. This is why owning property in Spain is not expensive in one dramatic way, but in many small, predictable ways that punish anyone who did not plan for them. When you add it all together, IBI every year, garbage fees, potential special charges, and plusvalía waiting for you at the exit, you get a clearer picture of the real cost of ownership. It is not frightening, but it is real, and ignoring it does not make it cheaper. The smartest homeowners are not the ones who complain the least, but the ones who understood these costs from the beginning and treated them as part of the ownership equation. Because once you see the full picture, there are no surprises left, only decisions. And Spain is very comfortable charging you for every one of them.